This is Cross Culture Podcast with Belle Tyndall and Lauren Windle,
where we talk pop culture and current affairs from a Christian perspective.
Guess who's back again. Twindle's back.
Oh, no.
Tell a friend.
No.
Is that
I wasn't
best
sure where
opening
that was
we've
going to go. Yeah, but from a low bar.
Fair enough.
Let's
What is this,
be
episode
real.
4? Yeah,
I feel like we're strong on the content, but our intros need some work.
need some work. They need like a theme. Like, do you listen to Off Menu where they have a theme? So it's
I
all
have
about
listened.
food. Yeah, so Ed Gamble will always be like, here we are taking the bread of conversation, the butter of humor,
No.
and the jam of food. And we have this podcast.
Okay. Why don't you work on that ahead of next week?
Great.
And then we'll go with it. But on this week, other than Ed Gamble and his lovely intros, what have you been listening to, love?
Oh my goodness. This week, I want to share one of my favorite things in the whole world. So basically, a couple of weeks ago now, you chose Boris Johnson's book and I chose Miranda's book. And I loved Miranda's book. And basically, what it reminded me is that I need to put things in my life that are just pure warmth, like just pure goodness, because I love that from here. And so since I have created a bank of things, a bank of clips, a bank of resources that I will go to when I need to be reminded that humanity is a good thing.
Wait, when you say clips, do you mean like they could literally be like memes or sound clips, or are they
That's exactly it.
Oh.
Yeah. So like, for example, I have some quite niche examples. The clip of David Tennant finding out he's won the Lifetime Achievement Award at the NTAs. Have you seen that?
No.
It's basically because he's just sat in like the arena and they don't say who's won the award. They just say someone's won the award. And he just like there's a camera on him as he's watching the VT, assuming it's going to be anyone but him. And then it dawns on him slowly that the VT is about him. And it's got his friends in it and his co-stars and his dad. And just to see David Tennant's face like crumple as he realizes he's the one. So that is one.
Oh,
Another
I love
one,
that.
yeah, honestly, another one is Chris Packham, Spring Watch's finest.
Again, that's not my...
No, it's not really mine either, but there's this clip that went viral where while he's talking, he spots this really rare bird called a nightjar. Now, I know nothing about birds or nightjars, but the delight on his face when he spots this live on camera, and he's just like, stop everything! And they like, stop everything. Anyway, all of this to say that what I want to bring up is the Modern Love column from the New York Times, and because that is right at the top of my list. That is right there, the star of the show in my bank of good things, and it should be in everyone else's too. And it's started off as a New York Times column. It's actually 20 years old this month, so it's a New York Times column.
Wait, is it written by the same columnist every week?
Edited by the same columnist.
Edited. Okay.
So it's like it's a guest column. So people write in their little love stories, true love stories. They write them up and they send them in. I actually helped my friend write his once, and like there are some very strict rules that applications have to go through. A certain amount of words, like a certain format. So anyway, and then they publish these little true love stories. And it's become a podcast and it's become a Amazon show, and it's the most lovely, beautiful resource. Like I'm just happy it exists and I love it very, very much. And the podcast, basically, it started off as just people reading these true love stories. And when I say love stories, they're not all romantic. So one of my very favorite ones is about a doorman. So this lady, again, true story, she lives in Manhattan. She gets pregnant by someone that she hasn't been dating very long, and he wants nothing really to do with it. And anyway, she goes through these other relationships, and you're like, I wonder when the love story is going to kick in. And then the only constant man in her life is her doorman at her apartment building. And so the love story, in no way a romantic sense, is her realizing that she's had this steadfast support, friendship, and care from a man that she sees every single day at the door of her building. So when they're called, I know. So when they're called modern love stories, like some of them are as platonic as it gets. Which, Lauren, makes me think about your book. So you have a little section in your first book, Notes on Love, and you say like, what if the greatest love stories are the ones I have with my friends and things like that. I don't think I've
Yeah.
quoted you verbatim there, but you have, that's the
What
vibe.
I can't remember the exact line, but I know so that's a whole chapter on
Mm,
friendships. But the sort of revelation for me was, what if, we all spend so long looking for somebody who is our life partner,
mm,
who is our, who we really fancy, who is going to be with us through thick and thin, who's our best friend. And I'm like, but what if I need to stop looking for a man and
mm,
realize I've got best friends? Like,
yeah.
you can't expect a bloke to be anything and everything to you when really my friends fill that gap like exceptionally well. Do you know what? I speak
Mm.
to non-Christian friends and they are blown away by my friendships, my Christian
Are
friendships,
they?
because
Oh,
they
what
just,
aspect?
there's my I don't think that this is across the board with Christian friendships. And everyone's individual, but I would say I, in my friendship group, have got what's a kind word for the swear word I want to say? A no idiots rule. And I don't usually use the word idiots, I would say.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And it served me so well
Mm,
because I have got a group of friends who I could call at any time and they would show up for me. And sometimes I don't call and they still show up for me. And they pray
mm,
with me and they laugh with me and they drop things off at my door. People always joke that I've always got flowers because people buy me flowers all the time. And it's not men. Well, actually, some of it is men, but male friends. It's not
mm.
like I'm taking you out, here's some flowers, although those are appreciated. It is
Although
like,
those will be accepted if offered.
yeah, no flowers will be turned away.
No.
But my friends, they come for dinner, they bring me flowers. I organize an
Mm,
event, I organize a party or a weekend away, and they bring me flowers. And sometimes I run out of vases. I go through a breakup and I just get flowers. And people just make such an effort for me. And I completely rely on my friendships in a way that in my early 20s, I completely relied on my boyfriend. It like
yes.
pre-Christianity,
Yeah.
he was the person who had to be everything. Actually,
Yeah.
like my friends are phenomenal. And also by doing that, you kind of share the emotional load of supporting someone because it's not just one person who is, I mean, no one's sort of responsible for you, I guess, other than
Mm,
yourself, but like who feels responsible for your development.
mm,
So everyone sort of feeds into me and supports me.
yeah.
And I think I'm a product of that steadfast love because I
That's
haven't had
so
it from men.
that's so great. So I am in a relationship and he's wonderful. I just want to caveat that he's the best. But I a little bit earlier in our relationship, I remember I was chatting to my sister and I was very immaturely talking about like all the gaps, like all the because I was
We do that.
expecting we do that because
Mm,
I was expecting him to do exactly that, to be my one love story. Do you
mm.
know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
one person.
yeah,
And I remember my sister Kit, she said to me like all the things I said I was missing. She said, "Yeah, but Belle, you get that from this person and you get
yeah,
that from this person. You
yeah,
get words of affirmation from me. I'm really good at that. You get this
yeah,
from this. You get quality time from that friend there. I know that you hang out all the time." And I was like, oh my goodness, like my life is made up of multiple love stories,
yeah,
of which Sam is a primary one, but by no means the only one. And I
yeah.
loved that in your book. I remember when I read it, I think I've actually quoted it in an article that I
Stop it.
say
I love
thanks.
that.
But to think of those as love stories because they absolutely are.
Yeah, no, they are.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend, and we celebrate our friend anniversary
Do
because we know the exact
you?
date we met. Yeah.
Oh
And
my
like,
goodness.
it's just so fun.
Yeah.
Like, I think that we grow up, hopefully increasingly less these days, but certainly I grew up thinking that the most important, influential relationship of my whole life, or like 90% of my relationships is going to be, and the influence I get and the support I get from relationships is going to be
Mm.
encapsulated in this one romantic relationship.
Yeah.
When really, like, yes, it is going to be when you take each as an individual, it is going to be the most important, because
Yeah.
marriage is huge, and you are living with that person and raising kids with them potentially, and, creating your
Hmm.
family and your household with them.
Yeah.
But I'd say that should be 40%. And then your three closest family members are
Mm.
20%. And then, 20% is your church family, 20% are your like closest friends. Because actually, one person's so fallible that if everything rests on them, if everything in terms of your
Mm.
human connection rests on one person, like we pray it never happens, but you can really fall down.
Yes, yeah. And it's too heavy for them. That's not fair on them
Yeah.
either. Really
Nightmare.
not fair.
You can't be someone's
Nightmare.
everything.
You
It's
really
like, I'm not
can't.
good enough for that. No way.
You really can't. Oh my goodness. That friend that you have a friend anniversary with, you should write up your love story with her and make it
It's
a
actually a
modern love.
him.
Oh, you should
It's a
write up
him.
your love
And
story with
make
him
it.
and make it a modern love column. Oh my
Yeah, I
goodness.
should do. He helps me assemble furniture. So he's Northern Irish. And on our friend anniversary, he sends me a box of prawn cocktail Tatoes, which are crisps that you can only get in Northern Ireland. But my
Okay.
goodness, they are the best. They're better than Walkers. Like,
Are
anyone
they?
who's had them knows that they're the best crisps. So that's always a
Mm,
really big day for me. But
yeah.
yeah, totally. And also, I can kind of, if I was listening to this, I'd be going, right, okay, who fancies who then? Are you just waiting for him to ask you out, or is he just creeping around hoping? He's got a committed girlfriend who I'm also very good friends with, who I think is phenomenal. And
Yeah.
I pray with her and hang out with her. And there's no sort of like boundaries crossed within
Mm.
it. And I just think it's lovely.
Okay, so I've got a question for you then. It's the classic when Harry met Sally question because
Wait, is
he
When Harry Met Sally the one with.
park your Meg Ryan hatred for like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
I
fine.
knew. I was
Okay.
like, I'm just going to
Yeah,
slip
you were
this in.
poised
No,
and ready. No,
yeah, I was
okay.
like, she will pull me up on this Meg Ryan thing. Yeah,
Okay.
because his point is men and women can never be friends. Attraction always gets in the way. And then, really interestingly, I saw a clip. Now, when I was like a tween, Makita Oliver and Lily Allen were the coolest girls in the world. And so I now listen to their podcast called Miss Me. And Lily
Okay.
Allen said in that they speak about this precise question, can men and women ever be just purely platonic friends? And
Mm,
Lily Allen says, which is so fascinating, that there is an element of attraction in all of her friendships with males. And she
okay.
doesn't think that's a problem, but she thinks that that's a part of their friendship, a part of what makes their friendship a really enjoyable one. So what do you think about those
Mm.
two questions?
I have so many male friends. I mean, when I was last in Bristol, we went out with two of my good male friends
Yes, we
for
did. Yeah.
dinner. I tell you what, someone once said to me, or actually, I bet they didn't say it to me. I bet I heard it somewhere, like on TV or something
Just
like that.
claim it. No, no, no.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
over a coffee.
Yeah, someone sat me down
It
and
was
they
intimate.
just looked me into the eyes and they said, in every heterosexual, so both people have to be straight,
Yes.
friendship with a man and a woman, one person, if the other one said, do you know what? I think we should just try this. There's one person of those two who go, yeah, maybe we should. And
Mm.
I have thought a lot about that. I
Okay.
have definitely got friendships where I don't believe that to be the case, but I think I've got more where I think it is the case.
Really?
Yeah, I've got
Okay.
friendships where I am 100% certain that if I approached him and said, we should kick this up, let's go on a date, he would say, look, Loz, like, I think you're phenomenal, but we both know that's not what this is.
Okay.
And equally, if he said to me, I'd be like, oh, but we could just go for dinner anytime and we know we're not that,
Mm.
you know?
Mm.
I think that my best friendships with men are ones where that potential was explored when we were both single. It was established when we were both single that nothing was going to happen. And we moved on and established a good friendship. And then I get into a relationship or they get into a relationship or we're both still
Okay.
single. But I
Mm.
think I think that that clears the airways a little bit
Yeah.
just
Just
to
pops the
be
balloon.
there's no
Just
question mark. And
mm.
sometimes I'm totally happy to message a male friend and be like, hey, we hang out a lot. Have you ever thought about asking me out? I'm great, you're great, blah, blah,
Have you
blah.
done that?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just to
Fair enough.
check, just to
Yeah, just to
check.
check, of course.
Exactly. And sometimes they're like, oh yeah, let's go for a drink. And then you just realize it's not a thing. Or sometimes they're
Mm,
like, it's not a thing, like it's just not a thing. And then you move on and then you have a great friendship. But I'd say
mm,
it's as minor as that. I don't have friendships where they're my ex. I don't have
mm.
friendships where I've kissed the guy. I'm just trying to think if that is actually true. My the sort of cluster of great male friends that I'm thinking of, we may have had a conversation, and it could be as small as a conversation that's just shut down pretty quickly in one
Yeah.
direction or the other. But I've not had any sort of physical contact, anything that would represent like real romance with them. And I think that's
Mm,
probably where my line would be. And I
yeah.
think also within that framework, there's still opportunity for respectful friendship when I get into a relationship or they get into a relationship.
Yeah, there's minimal hurt there. Minimal
I
like
think
scar tissue.
if I had really been damaged by someone, then I think I'd struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Right, okay. Well, write up your favorite one, submit it as a modern love column, right?
I would love
And
that.
because I want to read it, because I
Yeah.
read this column, that's primarily how I engage with it.
You read it. Yeah.
I
Okay. How
read
many
it, but
words is
also
it?
800
So if you were to
short.
listen to it, it would be like a 3-minute listen or something. It's not.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, it's tiny. And then there's a podcast. So the old podcasts, they literally just used to read out these things. But in the
Mm.
newer podcast, they now get celebrities on to read out some of these
And to talk
columns
about them like we just
and to
did.
talk about them like we just did
Mm.
and to give some of their own stories. And recently, Andrew Garfield, the actor Andrew Garfield, was on the Modern
Okay.
Love podcast.
So he must be selling something at the moment because he's popping up
Yeah.
everywhere.
He is having the press tour from
Okay, yeah.
heaven. He
But
is
what is he
nailing it.
selling? Oh, because
So
at the
he's
moment we just know more about Andrew Garfield. I don't know. Has he
Yeah,
been in
we
a
do.
film recently?
Yeah, yeah. So he's about
Okay.
to release a film with Florence Pugh called We Live in Time.
Yeah, Florence has been knocking about
She's
everywhere
been
recently,
knocking
hasn't
about. It
she?
is
Yeah.
kind of like a match made in heaven. I'm so
Mm.
excited to see this film. I actually don't know when it releases, but it must be soon because as you say, like
Yeah.
you can't go a
We're all
day
about the
without Andrew.
Garfield. Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, he's having the press tour from heaven, and I don't know if he's just got excellent PR team because less chat shows, he's going on Sesame Street and he's talking to Elmo and he's being so vulnerable with him and talking about really heavy emotions, but doing so to Elmo. So it's
Oh,
wholesome and light.
okay.
And
Whoever
he's
his publicist is deserves like
exactly.
double because that is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal, isn't it? And so, as part of this press tour, he did the Modern Love podcast and he's
Mm.
reading one of these letters and he bursts into tears.
No,
Yeah,
Andrew.
Andrew. He's
I love
so, I
Andrew.
know. This is the thing. I'm just like, okay, yes, he's got great PR, but he must also just be the most personable man in the world that he's having these moments.
Mm,
And he reads
mm,
this letter about this man who's been married for a long time and has kind of grown old with this woman and is seeing how her confidence in herself as she's grown old has like
mm.
seeped away. And Andrew, who is really open about the fact that he lost his mum relatively recently, just bursts into tears just
Oh,
at the
bless him.
humanity of this letter
Yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah.
grief and the passing of time and the way life unfolds and the way things change and I think he says this line of like just all any of us want to do is live with the people we love, isn't it? Just live with the people we
Oh,
love.
that's so
And it
nice.
is so nice and it's the most lovely moment and it just reminded me why I think modern love is in fact one of the best resources we've ever had.
Yeah.
I
Okay, I'm
I
sold. I'm
yeah.
sold on it. I believe you.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I hope everyone is. And honestly, like, I got nothing to gain. This is for your own good.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it, everybody.
What else has Andrew Garfield been doing this week then?
Yeah, well, it's a biggie. He also, as part of this press tour from heaven, did a chicken shop date. Do you
Mm,
know about these?
I know about chicken shop dates.
You know chicken shop
We
date.
did try and recreate a chicken shop date on Salt years ago, but we went to a kebab shop. But in the end, it was like quite a nice kebab shop, if they
Mm,
exist, with like
yeah,
tables and chairs and like like you
no,
could effectively get table service, and it just didn't come off. Also,
no.
I am not. Amelia, I'd say,
No,
even though
you're
I have been
not.
accused of being similar in some ways. And
In what ways?
I don't
You have
know.
literally like the opposite
I
personas.
think I'm really kind, and I think she's really like, you know what she's like.
Her
She's just,
character
yeah, her character's very
is quite
straight, very
standoffish.
direct. Yeah,
Yeah.
standoffish.
She rolls her eyes at her dates a lot, doesn't she?
She
And sort
loves
of,
to roll her eyes. She really takes the mick out of them. I guess the premise of like, I mean, initially it was these sort of rappers. It was the
yeah.
guys from Does the Shoe Fit? Have you come across Does the Shoe Fit?
No, I just said yeah, like I had, but no.
Mate, Does the Shoe Fit is like Philly and so it's all of these like rappers. There was one guy, Jack, who was on one series who used to be on Love Island, and they all go on a date with the same girl. And then they all watch the dates and kind of like they just take the mick out of each other. It's so funny. But Chicken Shop Date was born of the same era of these
Okay.
like quite London type
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
doing these very low budget but funny shows where they just it's the same sort of humor. She started off by getting like kind of low key like rappers from South London, stuff like that, and the contrast of the way that she spoke as quite a sort of well spoken, bit sarcastic, like, yeah, don't you want to go on a date with me type person versus them, and the sort of stuff and the fact that they're like in the setting of a chicken shop. But then as it's grown and grown in popularity and it gets
Mm,
millions, and she on her own has
she's incredible.
2.7 million followers on YouTube, and Chicken Shop Date has 1.4 million followers on
Yeah.
Instagram. So it's like huge. But now she's had Ed Sheeran, she's had Andrew Garfield. Who else has she had? Some
Cher.
Cher.
Oh yeah, Cher. Sorry.
Okay, I need
I
to
say Cher is one of those
share.
names where my Welsh accent does me
Yeah,
deity.
that really came out. She's
But
had
yeah,
Billie Eilish, she's had
yeah,
Sabrina Carpenter, Ryan Reynolds. Like she has had like
she goes
massive
A-list.
celebs, and now
She
it's
does.
Andrew Garfield. But I haven't watched the Andrew Garfield one. So what's
Well,
his deal?
it's iconic because they've had a couple of run-ins on the red carpet, and Andrew Garfield must have been a fan of Chicken Shop Date, and so when he meets her, he's a little bit starstruck, and he says, "Oh my goodness, Amelia, I love what you do." And then she's starstruck that he's starstruck, and they kind of keep having these red carpet moments. Now,
Hang
in
on, do
my
we think
head,
this is a modern love story?
well, this is the thing. I literally saw one comment on this video that said, "Who knew the best rom-com of 2024 would be an 11-minute long chicken shop date interview?" So
That's
maybe.
so
And in
good.
my head, I know that they're both phenomenal performers. I know that he is literally an actor and she has
Mm,
finessed this persona. In my head,
mm.
I know this. In my heart, I think they're soulmates.
Do you think it's actually happening? Do you think right now they're off having brunch together, holding hands over a smashed avo?
Yeah, I do. Call me, call me naive, but yes, that's exactly what I think.
Well, do you know what? She's been on a lot of dates, so it's about time she found love, you know?
Yeah, it really is. I saw an interview of her where she says about twice a year, because she does a lot of these dates, and she'll say about twice a year she has an actual crush on one of the dates. It takes her about 6 months to get over it.
Oh, I want to know who else she had a crush on.
So do I. She didn't say.
There's a part of me that thinks I would quite fancy Ryan Reynolds, but sometimes when someone's OTT, when everything's a
Mm,
joke, I actually just find them annoying, and I don't know
yeah,
how I'd feel about him in real life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's also, it's the wife issue, isn't it, with him?
I was literally just about to say. Also, can't imagine he's been sort of Googling me
But
when he's
the
got his
old, uh,
wife at home and four
the old
kids.
wife and 4 kids, yeah, that's really getting in the way.
Mm,
So those are the things that have been consuming my mind this week,
I
Lauren.
love that. Well, I tell you what's been consuming my mind this week. Do you know John and Jade Reynolds? So we're
Yes.
switching gear a bit. We're going from mega Hollywood slash YouTube celebs to Christian celebs.
Sure. Okay. Different world, just as valid.
Just so you can all switch gears a little bit.
Okay. Take the millions. Let's just that out of your head.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, kind of. But I think that they do have 500,000 followers on TikTok.
Oh,
They've
that'll
certainly got
be.
100 and something thousand on Instagram. So, like in
Wow.
the
Okay.
realms of Christian celebrity, they do well on social media, but that's less, they not preachy.
Okay.
They're just Christian people who also happen to be very popular as influencers, and they make videos about family life. They've got two kids, but Jade is a wheelchair user, and John
Mm.
relentlessly takes the mick out of her, and it just captures people's imagination. Like I know them, right?
Mm.
Some of the comments that they get on some of their videos are absolutely, I mean, it's the internet, right? And they've got quite a
Sure.
wide reach. So it means that you end up with people outside of your sort of normal safety sphere. Some of them are just absolutely wild. And what they've done is they've written a book, it came out last week, and each chapter is a different question, stupid question that they've been asked by people on the internet, and then like a
Wow.
jokey answer. It's just so funny. So it's called Able to Laugh, Finding Joy, though the struggle is real. And actually, like, obviously, able to laugh because Jade
Mm.
has a disability. But John also talks about his experience of ADHD and diagnosis for that, and some of the challenges associated with that. So
Mm.
there's lots. So, for example, introduction question: why did you write a book together? It was either a book or a third child. So we went with the easy option. That one I doubt they've actually been asked, but it's a good way to start. Is your husband your carer? Are you joking? He can barely look after himself. Like,
Okay.
these are like the different sort of chapter headings that they've got. So Jade had a condition that kicked in when she was 12 that meant that she became a wheelchair user. So it's not been
Mm.
her entire life. And they talk about that sort of transition when she was younger and getting used to it, and then also the process of sort of dating and some of the challenges that they face, and then marriage and having children. And it is honestly, it is so heartfelt, and every chapter they say something about their faith and their walk with God. And
Oh,
Jade
okay.
speaks really frankly about this idea of healing and this idea of suffering, and this
Yeah.
and how she's come to terms with that, because obviously through her life loads of people have been like, we're going to pray for healing,
Mm.
and like we're going to
Mm.
lay hands and pray for healing. And actually, that is always kindly meant, but is not always very helpful. And
Mm-hmm.
she just speaks to that experience. So I've loved that. It's like, how many pages are we talking? 150 odd pages. So it's not like
Oh, nice. It's not a
it's an
doorstop.
easy read. No,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a good one to take on the tube with you onto into work. You can finish it in a week easy. It is heartfelt, but also like such a laugh.
But it's not primarily written for Christians. It's written widely, and their faith is just weaved into their story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you could give it
Love
to
that.
somebody who's not
Mm.
Christian and they would find it really funny, that they would find it really informative. It's sort of learning about someone else's journey through disability. But then also they make no secret of the fact that they have
Mm.
faith, that they follow the Christian faith, and that that's important to them. And that comes up because it's a part of their life and it's sort of woven in. But if you weren't Christian, then I think you could probably just take it as like a nice sort of motivational message, or a nice
Yeah.
like encouragement at the end of each
Mm.
chapter instead. So they've
Mm.
done that really well.
Oh, great. Okay,
Yeah.
that's going on my list because I have heard of them, and I think they used to have a podcast, right? But I haven't read that.
Bring to light. Bring it to light. Bring to light was their podcast. I was
Nice.
a guest. Thanks for asking.
We And what did you bring to light,
Yeah,
old
I can't
Windle?
remember. I just remember like they've got such a good sense of humor. I just remember
Yeah,
laughing
sure.
with them. And then
Yeah,
they have got a podcast out now called Able to Laugh, where they talk about some of the topics in the book as well.
so
So
great.
two different podcasts, and I think that there might be a cheeky book tour coming in at some point, but I don't know for sure. So you have
A
to keep an
cheeky
eye on their
book tour.
socials. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever been on a cheeky book tour?
I've done my I've done my own like DIY book tour,
Yeah.
where basically people have booked me in to speak for them. So I've just treated it like a book tour. And
Oh,
as a joke,
excellent.
some of my friends got t-shirts printed and then turned up to one of my sermons that I was doing at a church in Battersea wearing the t-shirts.
When this church in Battersea just thought they'd booked a preacher, and the preacher
Yeah.
comes with groupies.
And then someone turned up with me on their t-shirt, and on the back all of my tour dates. It was absolutely brilliant. He was known to the
Wow.
church.
Okay. So they
But
didn't think he was,
no,
yeah,
no, they didn't
a
think he
threat
was
to your
mental.
life.
No, no, they didn't. They didn't.
Oh, great. Oh, imagine having your own book tour. What a dream. Well, congratulations, Jade and John. You're living my dream.
You sound a bit
Book
bitter.
touring. No, genuinely really happy for you.
I believe that there'll be a book tour in your future.
Do you? Okay,
Yeah,
cool. That
yeah,
would be
I
fun.
feel strongly.
I've hosted someone else's book tour. Yeah.
That's so funny. I actually thought that next time I do a book launch, I might ask you to interview me.
Really? Well,
That'd be
because
cool.
book me up. I'll be bringing people with t-shirts with my face on, but as long as you're cool with
Yeah,
that.
I'm I'm more than okay with that. That actually feels totally fine.
Yeah, great. I actually don't go anywhere without them now.
Good, good.
Ah, that
Um,
sounds great.
what have you been reading?
Yeah, I've been reading two things. One of them inspired by you. So
Oh,
I think it must have been our very first episode. You mentioned a wonderful book that I had read a while ago and then totally forgotten existed called Letters by a Modern Mystic by
mm,
Frank Laubach.
no idea.
Laubach.
And that's bad because this is
Wow.
published by Form, which is the imprint
Yeah,
I oversee at SPCK, but I don't know
yeah.
how to pronounce his name. Frank C. Laubach, Laubach,
Laubach.
Laubach.
Something back.
Yeah.
Or it could be
L
something
A U
batch.
B A C H. I
Yeah.
don't think it's batch. I feel confident
Okay.
it's not batch.
Okay, great. Great. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading. And I'm reading the Form imprint. So if you did want to get this book,
Oh.
read the, no, not the Form imprint,
The Form edition.
the
Yeah,
Form
because it's a
edition.
re-release. Yeah.
So it has a foreword by Pete Gregg, which is really wonderful. But I'd
Mm.
forgotten that it existed. And basically, this was first published in 1937, and it's a
Hmm.
compilation of bits of letters that Frank, let's just call him Frank,
Yeah.
wrote to his father. It is like super challenging because basically Frank decided he wanted to live a minute by minute life with God. So
Okay.
literally, like, so he calls it the game with minutes, and it's like tools about how to do this, and they are hefty. So it's all about, and listen to this quaint 1930s language, making Jesus your inseparable chum.
Oh,
Isn't that
oh,
just
I love
quaint?
that.
I know.
I haven't used the word chum in a long time.
Well, who has? I
We
think
should
it
bring it
died
back.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should. But listen to the rules of the game of minutes. Spend 1 hour a day reading about Jesus. That's
Okay,
kind
but
of
that's
like,
not minutes, that's an hour.
that's an hour. And then the golden rule is spend at least 1 second of every minute thinking about Jesus.
Oh, these
Yeah.
mystics just give me anxiety.
How hard is that?
Yeah.
1 second. So he actually learned how to do this. He actually trained his brain to spend 1 second of every minute sending it straight up to Jesus. So
But how though? How do we prove that? There's no way of measuring that.
there is no way of proving that. We really do have to take his word for it. But this is the way that he lives a minute by minute life with God. And he says it's not about pulling your head out of whatever it's doing and then sending it to Jesus. He learned this way of like
Mm,
putting Jesus into your day, into literally your minutes, into whatever you're doing. My gosh, is that challenging?
wowzers. That
How,
is
just
really challenging.
what? How
I
do you even
wouldn't,
start?
yeah, these people do throw me a bit
I know.
with their holiness.
Me too.
How would you start? I guess I would set a timer and every time it beeped, I would think of Jesus. But gotta be that's no life, surely, to
Mm,
have something beep every 60 seconds.
mm. I
That's
did do
like
that once, but it was like 3 times a day, like morning, noon, and night.
I've had a midday prayer reminder
Yeah,
for sure, and
but
that's fine. But
once a
yeah,
minute, I just feel like your colleagues or your neighbors or your friends or whoever you're with would be like, "What are you doing?"
yeah,
Anyway, maybe a good place to start would just be by the book because he does outline how to do it, and also to help Lauren out because it is in fact the.
yeah, no, we'd appreciate it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
But
like good book sales.
yeah, but I mean, it really bore fruit. Like some of the stuff he writes is so
Yeah.
beautiful. So he talks about the sense of being led by an unseen hand, which takes mine, while another hand reaches ahead and prepares the way. And this feeling grows upon me daily.
Wow.
How, like, the whole book is just filled with what it feels like. And, it's from a modern mystic. So
Mm,
it's all very like inexplicable
mm.
and kind of immeasurable and beyond words, but he tries his hardest to put what God feels like into words. And I've been trying to do that for a project recently, and that is bloody hard. So,
That's so hard. I love
yeah.
that you're diving into all these mystics at the moment. It's making me feel a bit guilty
See,
for how much Netflix I watch.
I watch a lot of Netflix too.
What's the other one you've been
But yeah.
reading then?
Yes. So the other one then is much more recent, 2022, and
Okay.
it's written by a favourite, a British favourite, a national treasure, I'd call her, a one Ferne Cotton.
Mm-hmm.
Ferne Cotton, just for anyone who doesn't know who she is, but national treasure. I'm sure this is unnecessary, but live broadcaster. I think spent a lot of the 90s and the noughties being a live broadcaster on TV,
Mm.
on kids' TV, on Radio
Radio.
1.
Yeah.
But she sort of ditched all of that, slowly but surely dropped all of those projects off her plate and started this new thing called Happy Place.
She
So
did.
Happy Place is a publishing house, it's a podcast. You can go to Happy Place festivals. It's like this wellness brand. And she's really been thinking about mental wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, and spiritual wellness. And so
Mm.
in 2022, she wrote this book called Bigger Than Us, which, like, the byline is the power of finding meaning in a messy world. And basically, if I just crack open the contents of this book, so we've got shamans, meditation and yoga, energy, enneagrams, astrology, prayer, signs, rituals and ceremony, mediums and intuition. She's literally giving you a smorgasbord of spiritual experiences. And one of the quotes in it, she says, the magic, the connection, the inexplicable. I love it. I'm an out and out spiritual junkie, and there is no stopping me, which is
Wow.
just really interesting.
I do feel like if we haven't said it yet, we'll say it now and over again. There is a real hunger for something
Hmm.
bigger than what is tangible out there in the
Yep.
world with people who haven't got a sort of established religion, who
Yep.
aren't Christians. This sort of there's a real like something greater than yourself, some sort of higher power, some sort of connectivity to something that isn't human is
Mm,
becoming increasingly important. It's interesting that she's covered all of those things. There is a part of me, I've got to be honest, that bristles at hearing that contents list and hearing prayer
mm,
and was it signs and wonders or some sort of
yeah.
other, and things that I associate as being specifically Christian. Not that
Yeah. Yeah.
prayer,
Yeah.
so actually prayer isn't specifically Christian, but in my life it certainly is. It's massively intertwined and associated with my faith, alongside other things, which to my mind are the wrong type of spirituality.
That's really interesting. I am looking into this stuff a lot at the
Mhm.
moment, and I went to Glastonbury this summer. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I just an aside on this, I saw a reel where basically this girl was saying that her pet peeve is people who go to Glastonbury and then make it their entire personality, and that is exactly what I do.
I think you can for the year, but if you're dragging it out more than the year,
Okay,
then you can't. I've never
great.
managed successfully to get tickets to Glastonbury, and I try every year. I've got a spreadsheet, I've got
Yeah,
friends, we've got
yeah.
like a little team that do it. We're there, like, come on, guys, one team, 8 a.m. Let's log in, let's do this. And absolutely nothing every time. So
I know. I apologize to all those people. I don't know. I don't know how it works for some and not for others. As many things in life. But what's so interesting about it, and I've chatted about this a lot since coming back, is there's this whole section called the healing fields, which is
okay.
basically if you took Fern Cotton's book and sprung it into life, it's the
Yeah.
healing fields. Every spiritual experience you can possibly think of is in this field.
Like
And
a
it
multi-faith prayer room on acid.
Yeah, but also I don't even think like you say, so many of them are not tied to religion. They
Mm,
are just spiritual practices for spiritual practices' sake. And it is rammed,
mm,
rammed. It's so busy. And I am finding this fascinating. I chatted to someone and they used this phrase that I love. So I'm going to keep using it forever and ever. But it's like we're becoming porous again to like these
mm,
things that are beyond us, to these mystical,
mm,
these transcendent, these spiritual, these like Fern Cotton used the word magic, these magical things. It's like the soil of our hearts has been really dry and
mm.
therefore really hard. And so, like anyone coming at us with some kind of spiritual experience, and of course, I'm a Christian, so I'm saying us more as like the cultural us than
Mm,
me personally. It's like it bounces off us.
mm.
Like we're so hardened like by materialism and by wanting science and all of this sort of stuff that it would just bounce off us. But now it's like we're becoming porous again. Like it is sinking in. It is getting
Mm.
past us. Like the soil of our hearts is softening to the idea that there is more than we can understand and there's more than we can see and there's more than we can make happen for ourselves. And that is so interesting to me. I am tracking this trend and I am finding it fascinating.
I think that our parents and probably my parents' age to my age, so let's say in your 60s to in your 30s, right?
Hmm.
Experienced quite a brutal Christianity where we
Yeah.
went to C of E schools or Catholic schools where things were rammed down our throats, where you sing quite boring hymns, where you talk about liturgy, where it's about where being able to recite a verse is more important than truly understanding the implications of it on your life and your relationship with Jesus, right? And I think it put everyone off. And I think that there was this brittle response to the church. And then things like the horrific things came to light about the Catholic Church and in other denominations as well. And obviously, don't get us wrong; that's still very much a live issue, as we know and we've spoken about. But I think people just went absolutely like F this, absolutely not. Like,
Mm.
you people are horrible, you're judgmental. I want nothing to do with this. And I think Christians ruined Christ, right? For a lot of people. And I think what we're seeing now is a new generation of people who didn't have it rammed down their throat and suddenly they're interested again. And they
Mm.
don't come with the same baggage. They don't come with the same resentment. They don't come with the same pain associated with spiritual teaching, religious Christian teaching. So they're like, yeah, okay, pray for me. Who cares? Whereas I feel like there'd be a lot of people who are a generation older who are like, I absolutely care and I don't want anything to do with it. So I think that there's an opportunity there that we shouldn't get wrong this time round.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about the opportunity this time around, so a friend of mine was invited to go to a conference, Goop, Gwyneth
Oh,
Paltrow's
gosh, yeah, goop.
Goop thing. So
Yeah.
they're another wellness brand
Yeah,
providing
American
all kinds of content, American,
for a
headed up by Gwyneth
very
Paltrow,
high cost.
a very high cost.
You want to be
And
pretty rich to get some goop wellness in you.
you really do. And she went to this conference where they were kind of mapping out like where they want to go next. Spirituality. It's all going to
Okay.
be spiritual wellness. So
Yeah.
what's really interesting is that the church, like we kind of need to switch our mindset because I think you're right, particularly with younger generations, it's not so much, okay, we need to defend ourselves and like, really do that. It's more like actually especially younger generations have got this really deep craving for the supernatural and the spiritual and the
Mm,
mystical, and they're not ashamed of it. They're not embarrassed, and they haven't been told that that's silly and that's stupid and that they should quench that like
mm,
generations before them had. And where the church is going to have challenge is that actually other people like Goop are going to compete with us on the
mm.
spiritual field,
Yeah.
which I just think is so fascinating. And I'm a bit
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, watch this space. Let's see how this goes. Because I can't remember the last time the church has had something to offer and actually other people, other places have been like, we have that same thing to offer, but we can just like sell it to you. You know what I
Yes.
mean? That's quite a
That's
medieval.
sell it to you is exactly that is the point, right? That is
Yeah.
where the church has the upper hand because, okay, maybe we don't have the branding, maybe we don't have the budgets, but what we're offering is for free. And
Mm,
we can claim no commercial benefit to people accessing the message and the spirituality that we have. There is no personal fiscal gain from that. And I
mm,
think that that is hopefully why people will be less skeptical.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think that is the case right now, but I think if we can just offer the incredible things that we ourselves have experienced in the church through our own spiritual experiences, if we can open the doors to that and say, like, no, we do not need anything from you, then I think that that could be the game changer. in a commercial world where young people are
Yes.
so like everything's fake, nothing's to be trusted, everyone wants something for themselves, everyone wants to sell you something. Like maybe we can just go, we're just going to be here. Come, we love
Mm,
it, you know?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, call me naive, but and basically, I yap and write about this all the time. So if you see me anywhere else in the world, I'll probably be saying the same thing. But I am excited.
I think it's exciting.
I
I
do
think
too.
it's really exciting.
Yeah,
I think we should leave it there. I think all of that is exciting.
I think so too. And to be honest, modern love and mysticism pretty much sums up where my head's been for the past week. So I've got nothing else to offer.
I feel like your head is always somewhere along those like, oh, actually, I tell you where
Yeah, it
my head's
is.
been this past week, true crime. Because
Oh,
okay,
okay.
just quickly, I'll do a
Yeah,
quick summary of this
go on.
and then we're done. Woman of the Hour is directed by Anna Kendrick and stars Anna Kendrick, and that is a short film, hour and a half film that has
Okay.
gone on Netflix. Another short film is Sweet Bobby that has gone on Netflix, and that is a documentary about quite a very extreme catfishing event. What is interesting about both of these two going up in the same week is that they're both off the back of incredibly popular podcasts that are 4 or 5 years old. So The Dating Game Killer, it's one of those very long, very American, very
Mm,
drawn out true crime podcasts, which I listened to in lockdown whilst I was marathon training. I remember like running around listening to it all the time.
little marathon drop in there.
Did you say you've been to Glastonbury?
Oh, touche. Touche, as you were.
And then Sweet Bobby is a podcast that I followed as it was being released. And that was like a live thing by Tortoise,
Mm,
which is a news platform we haven't spoken about yet, but is phenomenal. And it focuses on slow news and investigative journalism. It's very good. And they are probably the only UK based outlet focusing on podcasts and producing high quality podcasts. So I think that they're very much worth subscribing to. I think certainly initially it wasn't behind a paywall, but you could pay to get like access to the next episode early. So I don't know if it still is. What I'd say about both of those shows is if you're into true crime, they're both very good summaries, hour and a half summaries of what is kind of dragged out in the podcasts.
sure.
So the Dating Game Killer, or Woman of the Hour as it's now called on Netflix, is about the dating game is the US version of Blind Date. And it's about a guy who went on that, but also was a serial killer and was killing plenty of women before and afterwards, photographer, luring women into modeling shoots and then murdering them. And it
Wow.
really graphic. It's awful, 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 awful stuff.
Okay.
But the way that it's been produced, it's fiction. It's fictionalized a
Mm,
real serial killer
yep.
in this because it's all acted and stuff. But it does, I suppose, the Anna Kendrick version is a bit more empowering than the reality for women,
Okay.
is a bit more
Yeah.
empowering than the
Okay.
reality of the situation, which was
Yeah.
in the 70s California, I want to say. Whereas Sweet Bobby is a absolute wild roller coaster ride of a catfishing story. And I wonder for that one, if you're really into sort of true crime and stuff, I think the podcast is probably better than the Netflix one, but you'll save yourself a bit of time if you do Netflix because it's an hour and a half. So that's it.
Unless you're training for a marathon and then go for the big guns, go for the long haul, you'll need it.
Maybe my marathon time is an hour and a half. You never know. It's absolutely
Mm.
so. I mean, that would be like world record breaking. So it's not. And it's probably something, it's more than 4 times that amount, if you're asking.
If you're wondering, there you go.
She does not run fast for anyone, but you all get the same medal at the end. So it doesn't matter.
There's no prize.
No, no prizes for, well, there probably are prizes for coming first, but when you're in the non-elite ranks, doesn't really
Yeah.
matter.
Doesn't
Enjoy
matter.
it.
Just enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
There you go. Marathons, mysticism, modern love, Jade and John Reynolds. What more could you
Oh
want?
my goodness, absolute amazing things seeping out of us this week.
You're welcome, world.